All right. So this was the requirement. So who wants to walk through the tree? Everybody had talked about. Herschel gave a predefined calculation, right? What was the predefined calculation? 3%. 3% of the principal, right? So who drove the tree? Wants to walk through it?
It's fine, whatever you have, I do that. If we can talk.
Remember, this is the opportunity to learn it. Don't think about it whether it's right or wrong. What do you have it? Let's talk through it.
Do you guys need more time to work through it? Yes.
Did you work at all? Let me ask the question. Since Thursday. So unless you get this thing working and really understand this process, you're not gonna be able to do it a lot more further. Horizon than this. So you have to put the effort in order to learn.
Maybe let's give them 15 minutes together.
Okay.
Why don't you guys work in the team and come up with the tree? We'll get you exactly 15 minutes to come up with the scenario. Right, so that way you can refine it. And we can review it here right afterwards. Okay, so it's 9:08, so we will come back at 9:23. 23. Okay.
We'll leave this one up here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna toss the recording.
This is homework.
Yeah, this one was part of the homework that we sent out last week.
So if you're on mute, are you able to hear us? All right. So walk me through your tree. What was doing? Go ahead.
I think for the first time you can put like a valid input.
So valid inputs, tell me okay, what other thing?
Like provide value, principal, and interest rates. And then use valid loan.
Well, you're never gonna put interest rate, right? All it's asking it is payment based on predefined calculation. So what are you gonna provide input? Remember, we talked about it, when this thing is gonna be called on Thursday. This is gonna be called when somebody walks in and says, hey, I don't have money, I need a loan to fix it, my car. At that time, they will enter. Right? So we'd say that it's gonna be principal amount that they will provide, so input is only one, right? So valid input is principal amount, what else?
Invalid input.
Invalid?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it? Okay, tell me about invalid.
Like a missing principal amount or interest.
Again, there's no interest.
Oh, there's no interest. Oh, okay, we can put like principal amount is -0.
Okay. What else?
All right, we can list it out, -0, negative amount, right? That's.
Right, so the invalid input is negative. Or a 0. Okay. Anything else? What about you? So is that the 3 test cases? Do you have anything else?
I mean, we shared everything, so.
Okay, so that's it.
Yeah.
Swati, you're there?
Can you type the message to see if she can read?
Hello? Yes, yes, I'm here.
Okay, now
Hello?
we can hear
Yes,
you now. Anything else? Or you have this 3 test cases only?
uh, means loan payment we can check like less than 16 months or and not more than that. We
Okay,
can check one.
is 60-month a fixed period or you can change it?
We already talked, right? There is a predefined calculation.
It's a fixed period, right? And based on that predefined
Mhm.
60%, right? So you're not changing interest
Mhm.
rate or the period.
So for the valid inputs,
Mhm.
we could put a valid, loan.
Okay,
term.
means we can write only valid input and with invalid input for this to calculate to write the test scenario for the loan payment.
Okay. So like you were saying for valid input, something else?
Yeah, valid, for the valid inputs, under it, we can put, the valid loan term of 60 months.
Again, you're not changing in loan time. It's always fixed,
Remember, I gave the calculation to you guys, right?
right? So this is the calculation that he has. So you're not changing interest rate or you're not changing the 60-month. It's always same.
The monthly payment equals 3% of the loan amount. That's the calculation I gave you, right, on Thursday. So you need to go by that.
Now, what if for the input, somebody enters the actual wording in 10,000, let's say, or 5,000
Alphabet.
alphabet? Is it allowed?
No.
No, right? So you can just say it's. You want to tell that if alphanumeric characters are entered, that's invalid input. Okay. So you have negative, you have 0 amount, you have alphanumeric, and then you have no data. They try to calculate without entering anything in the system. Right? Then potentially, what should you get? You should get an error message, right? Enter an amount. Right? So you have total of 5 test cases, right? So if I just do it, this is 1. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Right? So 5 different scenarios you need to test it in this scenario to test this requirement. Okay. Any questions? This one, do you understand how this thing comes? Okay, let's do some more practice. Okay. So what we need to do is we're going to give you some additional requirements. Let me see if I can. Remove this one.
Dave, you can give the first 2, I think, to the folks here, first 2 sections. Should be good, yeah,
All right, so
total 5.
how do you want them to do all 5? Individual, each.
these guys can work in the,
So here's what we want, right? We'll give you another hour. And then we'll give you this 5 requirements. To do it. Build a tree. Just like what we did the loan calculator, understand in what context it is used. And then do that. And Swati, for you also online. If you can do the same 5. We'll give you 1 hour to work, it's 9:31. So we'll come back at 10:30.
I actually 10:15. Yeah, which is 45 minutes.
Okay. We'll take them the break also included in that. So do the break and that, and then we'll come. So put the tree for each one of those requirements. Okay? All right, we'll just,
Can you just a little bit zoom out so that they can see the module for the first one?
there you go.
Right, so you understand what module it is on and what's the requirement number underneath that. And if you guys wanna discuss afterwards, once you made it here in the classroom, go ahead and discuss, yeah, with your team member.
We're gonna pause there.
All right, so let's talk about 2.8, which is site administrator can create any user types. Okay. So who wants to explain what you guys what you came up with, I guess?
First, valid username.
Okay, so
Okay.
site admin. Can create any user type. Okay. All right, what you are saying,
Valid username. filter.
valid username,
We have to change the pen to black.
yeah, okay, gotcha. Okay, valid username. Now, can you explain me the requirement here? What this requirement is about? Just explain the requirement, right? Well, what is this about?
Is the requirement is being able to create a username.
Create a username or
With any user type.
any user type, right?
Oh, sorry, any user type, I didn't see that.
So what are we testing here? So when you say valid username,
The site administrator was able to log in
okay,
into the website
okay,
and being able to create any kind of user type.
okay, what is user type? What do you mean by user type? Right? I guess what requirement is trying to say here, I'm not sure whether you guys understood. Or not. That's what I'm trying to figure out here,
Yeah.
right? Swati, do you have any idea what this requirement says?
Yes, means site administrator can create user types like dealers, dealer user, lender user, and he can also manage lenders.
Well, this requirement talks about only the users, right? Only
Mhm.
user types, so.
He can enter a valid username and password, and he can create the user types, different user types.
The user type could be the dealer, the lender.
Is a dealer, is a dealer, is a user,
No,
who is a user? Is a dealer user is a user, what are they trying to create? Are they trying to create a dealer? Or
Like a
dealer
managed
users?
user.
So look at the table, right? What are the different types of users in the system? How many types of users are there?
5.
5 types of users. So can you read the users? What are those users?
Super user, dealer, lender. Upgrade,
RFREP, okay.
then area manager.
Area manager, where is the regional manager? Is there a regional
Yeah,
manager there?
region 6.
Right?
Region manager.
So site administrator can create either, they should be able to create all 6 different user types. That's what this requirement says,
Okay.
right? They are not talking about creating the dealer as a company or lender as a company, but they are talking about, can I create any of these users, right, in the system? So now you are a tester. So what are your scenarios here? Now you understand what this requirement is. So how would you test this requirement? So what are different scenarios here now?
Valid username. Waiting.
Again, valid username, I mean, are you entering a username or what are you doing, right? So you need to prove that, right? That you, as a site administrator, I can create all these different users
Yeah.
in the system. So what would be your simple scenarios here?
The site administrator was able to create all the 6.
All 6,
all
right?
the 6 user
So
type.
as simple as that, right? So you can basically have valid data, right? You can break down valid data and invalid, right? Invalid info or missing info or whatever you need,
Yeah.
right? Invalid/missing. Okay, so when you say valid or all required information, you should be able to create all 6 users. So dealer user can create dealer user. Same thing, lender user. RFREP user. Regional manager. Area manager. And what are we missing? Super user. Okay. If they do valid input, means all the required information, they should be able to create all these different types of users. That's what you are proving, basically. System should be built so that site administrator, when they log in, they should be able to create all 6 users. Now, as a part of the negative scenarios, if any of the information is missing, by the way, what information you will be supplying when we say invalid or missing information? In what scenarios you will not be able to create the user? This all 6 users. Do you guys understand? Basically, do you know where you will have the user information? How do you know whether it's a valid information versus invalid information? Anybody has any guess?
Can you give an example of valid information, let's say for the dealer user?
What is valid information? Right? Here we are saying, if I supply valid information, now what is valid? What does it mean, valid information?
When is consistent, complete and correct.
No.
It's not about, now you are trying to create a user, right? So you are supplying a user information,
Which is the right.
which is
Correct.
which is all the information that you need to create a user. Now, how do you know what is valid, or where do you get that from the document? What is valid? Is that information provided in any of your documents? In the design or requirements? Anybody? Any thoughts?
You read through the documents? Where, when you say it, right, now you were talking about. Consistent, complete. And correct, right? So what does it make it complete? Where do I find that information?
Yeah. Okay, so there is a user section. What is required for in order to create a user? Right, in this is a design document. And you have all these fields. And you have these required fields. When you say I need to create a user, I need to supply all the fields that are required, basically, in order to create a user in the system. Now, when I say missing, so if I don't supply any of these missing fields, I shouldn't be able to create a user. I cannot create a user. Right? So anything that's required in the users, basically, section. That's the information. This is part of page number 13 on the system design document. Okay, so they have a list of all what is required for users, what is required for same thing with the dealers. If you want to create a dealer, what is needed, what fields are required, and so forth. So that information is laid out in the design document. That's the reason we ask you to read the design document as well, so that you know what's there in the design. Okay. So when you say valid information, all the required fields you have to supply in order to create a different types of user. And when you say invalid user, so I have another 6 scenarios here. I shouldn't be able to create those users. Those are negative scenarios. Does it make sense? I mean, this thing.
Yes.
Okay. Requirement is very straightforward. It just talks about, okay, how many site administrator can create any type of users, but how do you prove it? This is the process. You need to say, okay, what type of users I can create? Okay, so I need to create login as a site administrator in the system, and I need to create all these 6 users as part of my test scenarios. Then, if I don't supply anything, then I shouldn't be able to create any of those users. So you have total 12 scenarios here. Well, test cases for this requirement. Okay. Any question, anyone? Make sure you understand the requirement, okay? Because requirement is your Bible or whatever you call it. That's what you go by. You cannot, if you don't understand the requirement, that means you're gonna struggle creating the test cases. And this is the process. We are emphasizing this because this is important process. This is how you can go about coming up with the testing side of things.
So for the invalid, so how do you write the test cases for the invalid?
So invalid or missing, right? So you list out again 6 here, right? 6 different users. So if I don't supply information for creating a dealer user, then I shouldn't be able to create. You are proving that they shouldn't be able to create it.
Right.
Okay. Now, what is required for dealer user? How do you know what's missing for dealer user, right? So let me come back here. So if you look at it in the users table. All right. So what is required for dealer? So obviously login ID, password, active flag is not supplied, but user type. So required. If it's a dealer user, you say select the dealer user while you are creating a dealer. While you are creating a dealer user type user. Okay, so you will select dealer user. First name is required. Okay, that's fine. This one is required. Now, when you come to the dealership ID, to dealership for user required for dealer user type. So this is required field for the dealer. Now, if you are creating a lender user, then you will have lender ID that would be required. Okay. If you are creating area manager user, then you will require certain fields. So you need to come up with the test data, which we will talk next. I think once you have the scenarios, then how do you actually write the detailed test cases? This is, but you need to come up with the test data as well. For all 6 different types of users. Which we will talk when we write the actual detailed test cases. We haven't done any testing yet, okay? This is just a high level things. We are trying to figure out what is needed. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at the next one. Hopefully this is clear to you guys. All right, let's see who is who wants to go for the next one. Username is auto-generated based on the last name and first name. Let me come back to this one, okay, afterwards. But I'll jump to the 2.6. Credit application status needs to be pending for new applications. So who wants to take a stab at it? So you all wrote it, right? The scenarios. So this one is 2.6. So just explain me in plain English, what are you trying to do here? What the requirement says, basically. Anybody? Just number explain the requirement. That's okay, whatever you have is perfectly fine. Go ahead and see we can see what does the requirement says. And how you can test it. Swati, do you have any thoughts? Okay.
You got to try.
Yeah, you
Guess we're done in 20 minutes, so you must have written something.
It's okay, if it's wrong, it's okay, I mean, there is nothing wrong with it. Being wrong, I guess, so.
The credits application was able to be put on pending for new application.
Right, so what does it mean, right, in terms of what it's trying to do, I guess, here? In whatever your understanding is, right?
The credit application was for the loan,
Uh-huh,
and the status was being able to put for new pending.
so what does it mean, like who is submitting? So you just explain me where,
Results.
basically, what is trying to say here? It says it's pending, right? But what does it mean to you? What's the business process here? Business process meaning when this requirement comes into play, right?
Yeah, when a customer comes into the shop to
Okay.
fix his
Right, so you start with the customer, now dealer is sitting there, now what? What happens, basically?
yeah, the customer applied for the loan,
Okay,
and while the customer is applying for the loan, they put the other ones that are coming in
okay,
on pending for new applications. So
well,
they want to deal
when
with
the dealer submits the credit application, right? Because customer does not do anything. Dealer submits the credit application on behalf of customers to for the loan, right? As soon as they submit the application, what if all this requirement says is the status needs to be in pending status, basically. That's all you are trying to prove here or testing it. So how would you test it, basically? So you will simulate the same behavior, right? You will act as a dealer, as a QA, you can wear anybody's hat. You can wear site admin's hat or whatever. Here you need to wear hat of dealer and submit application and see if you see the application status as pending, right? Is there anything else? That should be straightforward, right? So in terms of the scenario wise, So if you have this requirement, what is that, 2.6? You are submitting a credit application, you are checking the basically status is pending or not, right? In order to do that, you have to submit the credit application. So will there be any negative scenarios or any positive scenarios? Basically, what scenarios you guys came up with?
It's valid.
Okay, so you have valid info, valid credit info, credit application info. Right? And then is there, what are you checking? The status is pending, right?
Yeah.
Check pending status. Now, if you supply invalid info, then you shouldn't be able to even submit a credit application, right? So would you be able to even run this scenario? If you can submit a credit application, then you shouldn't be validating anything, right? At that point. So there is nothing else. That's just scenario wise, it's only one scenario here. This scenario is not even applicable. Because you can't even submit credit application, then what are you validating? Right? So this is a very straightforward requirement. You try to submit a credit application, say if the check status is pending and you are done.
So this is one of the examples. Remember we said that the good test case is when it should not have a redundant to the other thing. So as long as you do this, if this fails, it already indicates the
Other.
presence of the other, so you don't need to write two different test cases. It's one test case is sufficient for this.
Right. Now, when you submit credit application, if it's other than pending, maybe it shows approved, hey, that means, okay, you are expecting to be pending, so it fails, so basically you don't need to write like duplicate scenarios. Okay, so there is only one scenario here. Very, very straightforward requirement. Okay. All right, so let's talk about dealer shall not be able to update credit application status. So 2.7. Okay. Okay, somebody explain me in plain English, what it's trying to do here? It says dealer shall not be able to update credit application status.
Yeah, after the dealer has submitted the application and it has gotten to the to another process of getting to the review, it will not be able to be updated back. The status will be able to update it back.
Okay, so in order to do that, how would you check it in the system, right? So dealer is going through the process of submitting, he submitted the credit application. Now, what you need to verify? What are you trying to prove here? That once they submit, they are not able to make any modifications or changes, basically, specifically related to the status. So if you are to test it, what would be a process here? If you are to test this from the testing standpoint.
Dealer will not be able to update the credit application status.
Right, but in process wise, step by step, right? I'm just looking at the high level process. So dealer fills out everything, submits. So after whatever happens to the application, it doesn't matter, right? Whether approved, rejected, who cares? But you have to go back in as a dealer and see if you can change anything. Right? Any status, basically. So you pull up the same credit application information and see if you are able to change anything. If you are able to change any of status, that means something is not working properly. So your scenario will fail, you will identify defect. Right? So that's all it is. I mean, there is not many things. It's more like a common sense. Okay, what would I do as a dealer if I have to verify this requirement? So you are a QA, you have to go in, wear different hats. So now you are wearing dealer hat here. Okay, so scenario wise, it's not much here. Again, similar to the first one. Basically. So you submit your application, right? Submit and verify. Basically, no changes, cannot make any change to the status. Okay, There is nothing else,
Right.
basically. That's all it is, pretty simple. Okay. All right, 2.12. All right, let's see what you guys came up with, 2.12. Okay, anybody? Swati, do you have anything on the 2.12? What you guys, what you came up with, Swati? Can you hear us okay? I just want to make sure.
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All right, I just want to make sure. Do you have a scenario written or what's your understanding of this 2.12?
2.12. Yes, yes. Once the application is submitted, then dealer he will not be able to edit the application once it is submitted to lender. So
Uh,
he will not modify, or he will not make any changes in the application once it is submitted.
That is 2.7. So we are talking about 2.12 now, basically. So I have it up on the screen. Hopefully you can see it. The 2.12 is a little bit different requirement. So do you have scenario written down for 2.12? So if you can explain to the class here, what's your understanding of 2.12? Which is after credit application is submitted, system shall notify lender via email. That's what we are talking about 2.0. Yeah, go ahead. Nana.
So, what that is, the scenario there is, the lender gets notified via email once the application is submitted by the
Okay,
dealer.
okay. So lender should receive email, right?
Yes.
So you are tested. So how would you test it? That's what the scenarios are about, right? So that's the requirement. That is good. That's understanding is good. Now, if you are to test it as a tester, what would you do in that case? Just as a high level step. See if you can visualize what is that you are doing. Can you explain? Do you have any thoughts? What would you do to test it? Don't look at the tree. Now you just tell me high level things. What would you do?
The system will be able to notify lender through email, will be able to notify the lender through the email.
Okay, now how would you test it, right? How would you prove it? That is working as expected.
By,
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, yeah, see what your thoughts are, right? Because you have to prove the system is working as expected, right? Because this is what you are trying to test it from the testing standpoint. So what are the things you would do here to make sure it's working?
by having a valid email address.
Okay. All right, a valid email address of whom? Whose valid email address? Lender? Okay, all right, let's assume you have a valid email address. Now what?
I will check the email is sent to lender or not. Means notification is received by lender. It
Okay,
is auto generated.
okay, gotcha. So how would you know, check it, I guess? Basically, what would be your steps for this scenario?
I will check send folder in my email. I will check send folder option whether email is sent or not.
Remember, this is a system, right? So it's not your email mailbox. So you can't change, you will not be able to check. Basically whether something was sent or not, unless you have some errors. So you might have some error logs in the system.
System shall be able to notify lender through invalid email address.
Well, if you have invalid email, how would you check it? You will never receive email. Right? But does it mean that you system did not send, but what you have to remember, what your goal is. After credit application is submitted, system shall notify lender via email. So if you are a tester, how would you verify something basically lender received or not? So when I say, oh, are you guys receiving my emails? How would you check it regarding the class?
Go to the email to put in the user and the password.
Yeah, and that's what exactly same thing you have to perform here. Right? Now, what is important here? You can do that. You can go to the email, but what's the important here? Lender email. What is important?
Having the right user and password.
You need to have credentials for lender's email. Then only you can check it. Right? And so that's part of the creating the test data setup and everything, which we will talk basically as we go through the test cases and those things. But you understand the process here, right? You have to verify that, hey, as a lender, I received the email, right? So you are simulating the overall process, the business process here. Now you, as part of the test data, you can create a one Gmail account assigned to that lender. And you submit a credit application, basically, right? And see if you got the email in that, whatever email that you have specified for the lender. Okay, so there is a overall process here. Now, scenario wise, is there anything else here? So we are talking about a high level scenario, right? Okay. So what are the scenarios here? What did you guys come up with from the scenario standpoint?
Valid email ID.
Okay, so you have valid email. You have invalid email, assuming that's what you mean, right?
Yes.
Okay. So valid email, we know how to test it. You have access to that email and then you can test it out, log into that and see if I received the email. But how would you test the invalid email? Would you be able to test the invalid email? If the email doesn't even exist, or if it's not even there, then how would you even test this scenario? You can't test it, right? Because there is no email. I mean, it's a system to system communication. I don't know how you can prove that it's invalid. So only scenario you would end up testing in the real is this one.
Yeah, the only way you can do it, which typically you don't have access to, is the system administration log of the
Right.
email server, where you can just see it when something has kind of failed to deliver.
Yep. So what you, as a tester, you most likely you will not have access to the failure emails because some administrator has to dig up and give you that. But most likely you will not be able to test the scenario on your own as a tester. Okay, so this is the only path you can test it. Hey, there is a valid email. You need to set up all the proper data and then you can test it out. Okay. All right, so everybody is good to understand the process, okay? I mean, because every project will be different. Okay, I mean, this is our flow. You might have another system which is gonna be completely different, but process remains same. Okay, the how you think and how you write the scenarios and how you develop the test cases later on. So important part is the process. Okay, anything else you wanna add, Dilip? here?
I think it's most important is to have your thought process. How are we gonna break down that requirement? What is the context? And then what are the different possible paths you need to test it in order to fulfill that requirement?
Yep, and first of all, you need to understand the requirement in order to write the test cases without or scenarios, so. Yep. Alright, so I think one more item we have it, is REQ 2.1. Okay, so username is auto-generated based on last name and first name. That's the one I asked you guys as well. So let's see what you guys have. Okay. So can anybody explain what are we doing with this requirement or what this requirement means? Basically. And when this requirement comes into play. I think you all wrote it, right? Test cases, so our scenarios. So what this requirement mean?
So the username is already auto generated in the system based on the last name and the first name.
No, this is the requirement. So there is no username already generated. You are trying to prove that when the username is auto-generated, now what does it mean, right?
Username.
So what does it mean? So if you look at the data section here, username, login ID of the user auto-generated based on user first name and last name, and it's required. Okay, so this is an entity users, right? This is in a design. They have more details about what is username. It's a login ID of user. And it's auto-generated based on user's first name and last name, basically. Right? But this is the requirement. Username is auto-generated based on user's last name and first name. Right? The same requirement is specified here. Additional details is in the system design that talks about it.
So let's talk about, right, what is the context, when this is gonna be used?
Yep.
And do you feel it's meets the 3 CMP criteria?
Yep.
So one thing I'm gonna make a comment to all of you, right? I see a lot of you are like shy and not participating in that. When you go to the workplace, if you don't answer, what is gonna happen? What's gonna happen? At the workplace, your peer asks you a question and you don't answer at all and stay quiet, what happens?
Well, yeah, most likely, if you don't answer the questions to them, or basically, but so always, if you don't understand something, definitely bring up, right? Here is opportunity as a class, we can discuss together. And work as a team so that you understand the process.
This is your opportunity to practice and learn that here. You're not gonna get that opportunity when you go to the work, right? So what is the context? Let's talk through it.
So
It's for you to tell us the context.
invalid inputs of username and part.
Before even you go there, right? So when this requirement or what is, when, how would you test this as an overall, right? When this requirement comes into play, what's the context of this? Basically. How would you, what process you will test this requirement, or where does this apply, basically? It's part of managed users, remember, it's part of managed users, but what does it mean when you say managed users? What are you trying to do here?
I think we need to verify the regional declaration.
You need to verify username creation. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, which is correct. So when would you verify it? When it applies, this requirement? Which is correct. You need to verify username creation. But at what point the username is generated?
When you log on.
Is it when you log on?
when-
When you log on, that means you already have a username.
No, no.
When new credit application is created by,
Is it credit application, Swati?
When you have the right user first name and last name.
When are you writing the user first name and last name?
When you have the right login.
No, the login is too late, right?
See, login is too late. User is you already created a user, you have everything, all the information. Now I'm just logging into system. So that really doesn't apply.
So think about it, without user ID, will you be able to log in?
You can't, right?
Right, so when you try to log in, at that point, user ID is already created.
So what's the manage user supposed to do? Did you guys forgot the process? What is supposed to do? Manage users process. Flip to the manage users, read it and tell me. What that business process is about. Manage users. So there is a manage users business process in the document, requirements document. And if you read that, tell me when does it apply? So there is a business process section, right? Where would you find it? If you read the document, then you should easily find it.
Which document is it in? Is it in the system specification, design document, or test plan? Where does it? Where do you find the process?
Test plan.
Is that test plan?
I mean, certainly.
All right, I'm just gonna help you and put it on the screen here for you, but as I said, if you don't read the requirement document, you're gonna be in trouble. So, you need to memorize requirements document for every project. Without that, you're gonna have a tough time. Okay, so I'll let you guys read through it and see when does it apply, this requirement. Or what are we trying to do here? So what's the process talks about here? I'll let you guys interpret and explain. So what is manage users is about? I guess what are we trying to do with this process? Manage users. Anybody can interpret for me? It's okay, I mean,
We're
it's,
trying to set up a new user for the upload.com.
there you go, right? This process is all about setting up new users, so you are creating new users, updating users, all those things. So any requirement that's under this manage users, they apply when you are creating a new user or updating a new user and so forth. Right? So when I flip back here, it says manage users, so then that's a business process. All these requirements listed here for your testing, that applies when you are either creating a new user or updating a user and so forth. So now, when the username, so when this requirement comes into play? Do you think it comes into play when you create a new user or when you update a new user? Now we talk about when this specific requirement comes into play. We all know when we set up users, that's when this requirement comes into play. Right? But do you think it will be for updating the existing users or creating a new user? Creating a new user, right? Because when you update, this is auto-generated, basically you can't change anything once it's created. Because fixed, it will never be updated, basically. So you cannot update, basically, this piece of information. So it applies when you are creating the new user. You supply all these fields that we talked about earlier in the design document, all this required information for the user. Right, so now you understand. Now what he says is based on last name and first name. So I think Dilip asked about, do you think this requirement is complete? Is there anything, what's missing here? So if I put in Jerry, whatever, Smith, do you think you can test it, basically this requirement? What is supposed to generate? If I supply Jerry and Smith, okay, in the first name, last name, what is supposed to do here?
Nobody asked the question, right? So you must have thought it's complete. What do you thought it will be? Staying quiet is not gonna help anybody. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
If you be this much quiet, they will think you don't know what you're doing. Right? So it's your opportunity to learn it. Either you can decide it or you can stay quiet. Choice is yours.
I feel it's not complete because we don't have the last name and the first name.
No, but Herschel said it, like it's easy.
I said Jerry Smith, right? I gave you Jerry Smith, right?
What should be the username?
What should be the username based on this requirement here? So what's missing? Is there anything missing, I guess? And if anything is missing, then what is missing? So it says auto-generated. How do you decide what's supposed to be username?
Should it be Jerry Smith or it should be Smith Jerry? Is it Jerry S?
So
Should it be J Smith?
So
What
the
exactly it should be?
username is missing.
The username is auto-generated. Right, system supposed to generate, if you save a user, while you are creating a new user, right? Then username should be auto-generated, which you can provide the people to log in to the system. But what is supposed to be generated? How is supposed to be generated? It says it's auto-generated, so you're not typing in the username, kind of like a Gmail, right? When you create a new Gmail account, Google account, you are actually typing in your username, right? But that's not the case here. It's supposed to generate based on your last name and first name.
First name, yeah.
So what's missing? Okay.
Swati?
Any thoughts, Swati? What is
Uh,
missing in the requirement?
mm, a user should be active user, active.
No, it's not about active, right? So what's supposed to be the username? If I give you Jerry Smith, Jerry as a first name and Smith as a last name, just as an example, then what's supposed to be my username? Because it's auto-generated username here.
What type of user is?
No, it's not about type of
No.
user. So stay focused on the requirement.
Yep, it's only requirement. This is the part you are writing the test cases, test scenarios on this requirement only. So we are not talking about user type or anything else.
So. Think around scenario we talked about that comes into play when I'm creating a new user, right? Agree? Disagree?
Sorry, I'm not able to hear.
When does this
Yes.
requirement come into play? When a user is getting created, right? Yes, no? Yes, I'm asking all of you.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay,
All right.
you're asking you.
No, I'm not asking Herschel. Herschel knows it.
No, I mean,
It's for you to learn it. It's not for
I
Herschel.
thought you were
to learn.
asking the lady on the.
Swati, okay, gotcha.
So. This comes into play when a new user is getting created, right? Let's say Herschel said that the first name I'm giving is Jerry. The last name is I'm giving Smith. Based on that information, what should be my username? Because it's auto-generated, right? So system is gonna generate. What do you think it should generate?
So we need a valid login user.
Again, it's
Again,
not
login is
valid.
after the fact. Login is
This
after
is
the
like
fact.
creating a user, right? So I'm a dealer and I'm trying to create a new user who is an employee working called Jerry Smith at my workplace. So I'm trying to create his account. I gave the name Jerry, I gave the name Smith as the last name. And it says that system should auto-generate the username, right? What should be the username at that point system
Jerry
generate?
Smith.
So you're saying Jerry Smith.
Yeah.
What do you say that it should be first name first and the last name last?
Sorry, you said you gave us the first name and the last name, right?
Right.
So we're able to verify the first and the last name.
It's not about verifying.
Okay, so,
System is generating something.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
so,
Okay.
so assume this is a screen, okay? This is first name. Last name. And I'm typing in Jerry Smith. And then I have a bunch of other fields, right? Like other fields I have. Then I have a save button here. Okay. When I hit the save button, I fill out all the fields, whatever type is dealer, user, right? So there is a dealer, user. When I click on save, I'm supposed to see the username is empty first time. There is nothing populated here. When I click on save, I'm gonna see some username here being generated. Based on the information I filled out here, Jerry and Smith. What this auto-generated username is. How do you know what is supposed to be? That's what we are talking about, basically. In this requirement. Whatever is that auto-generated, basically you are testing that is generated properly. Now, what we are asking you is, first of all, is this requirement complete? Do you have everything to test it? Basically. You all think it's complete and you can go about a happy life with the testing, I guess.
I don't think it's complete because we also need the addresses of the city.
We are not talking about address in the city, right here. We are talking about
The first and last. name.
first and last name only. The username is based off those first name and last name. I don't care. I mean, what we enter for address is,
There's so many. We can have so
there are
many-
other 50 other fields. We don't
Yeah.
care. The whole requirement is based off first and last name and the username. That's all. So narrow down your scope. Forget about everything else. You need to focus on what's in the requirement. Specific requirement. That's what you need to test.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what if the two persons has the same first and last name?
I understand. So if I have a second guy working at the same dealership with has the same name, Jerry Smith, what is username supposed to be? If you think it's gonna be Jerry Smith, first guys, let's say I have two people. First one has a Jerry Smith, right? Name. Second one, I'm also gonna enter the same thing, Jerry Smith. Maybe his address is different, maybe, and so forth. But what is username supposed to be then? Right, so you as a tester, you need to,
So do you understand the requirement?
you understand,
It's
right?
not clear, right? What happens when the two users have the same names? What should system generate?
So which means it's not clear.
But
We
what,
should we should provide user ID for each user. That should
That-
get populated.
so the requirement says it's auto generated, that means you are not providing the username, system needs to generate. So that's what we are testing here, right? So you cannot provide the username. That's out of scope. Our focus is what's supposed to be the username. So I guess you guys still didn't get it, what's missing in this requirement? You guys feel like something is missing, but not sure what's missing.
Let me ask it the other way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So. Given this information, right, that Herschel gave it. Right, Jerry Smith. So think around. Okay, so he's just gave you Jerry Smith, right? First name and last name. Right? And you said system can auto generate, right? So system can generate something like. I'm just gonna simply put the first name and last name together. Or I will start with last name and first name. Or I can just do a J Smith, right? Or I can do it Smith J, right? Or I can do Jerry S or S Jerry, right? So there are multiple combinations can happen. What I'm supposed to do it. What does system should generate? Should system generate this one? Right? So if I look at it, right? So there are 6 different combinations, at least that I wrote. There's probably more. What should system generate? Right? You got this requirement. That username should be auto-generated based on last name and first name. There are at least six ways I can generate. Which one is right? Which one is wrong?
I think it's supposed to be generated with the capital letter.
I don't know. What does it say? It's supposed to generate with capital letter.
Username is.
Does it say?
No. So.
What is the first rule I said? You don't come up with your own requirement. Right? So something is missing, obviously. What is missing?
What is missing? We're trying to figure out, but we can't get what's missing.
You got to figure it out. This is your job. That's why somebody's going to pay you for a QA person. There are 6 ways it can generate, right? At least there are more than that. So obviously this requirement is not clear. It's not complete.
Then we go back and ask,
What do you want to ask him?
What's the question for business?
what should be the username?
He's going to tell it, username should be based on first name and last name. So your question is not clear. So ask the right question.
You probably wanna know the formula.
How is it auto-generated using the information? Right? So ask him.
How do we also generate the username?
So based on the first name and last name, right, it should be generated kind of more like a GSM in this case.
Okay. So as he's saying that generate it like this. What is this?
Chase me.
Right, but what does J Smith means?
What
It's
is
the
J?
first letter of the first name attached to the last name. Right, so if I say Bob Smith, what should it be?
B.
Smith.
Right. So that's one part, but then you also ask Nana, what if there are 2 Jerry Smiths?
How it should work?
Then should they both have the same user ID? Won't work, right? Then I don't know which Jerry Smith is logging in. So what is the other question you want to ask?
Yep, multiple users, right? Same way with the same. So it should, system should auto increment or put numbering at the end. So first guy will be given J Smith. If the second person with the same last name and first name comes in, there should be J Smith 1, J Smith 2, J Smith 3, something like that.
So he changed a requirement by giving you additional clarification, right? So this one, he said that it is the first character of first name plus last name, right? That's one thing he added. Second thing he added is auto increment.
Number. Auto number.
Right, so it's not. Right? So based on that, what would be your tree will look like now? Okay. So what should it look like? What are different things you need to test it to validate that requirement? Okay, so the first thing would be, so valid last name, valid first name. It should be the second scenario.
I think we can repeat with the different name.
Right, so it's like it's duplicate.
Yeah.
First name and last name. What other scenarios?
Number, valid number.
No,
Now,
that's what the
name-
duplicate is.
Name, would you have numbers? Generally, people don't have numbers, right? Basically, but does it really matter here, right?
This is both valid first name and last name, right? So. What should happen if I don't provide first name? What should it do?
You shouldn't be able to create a user, right? Because these are required, this is required information.
Same way, no last name. only first name. Right? That's a scenario you need to test. You need to scenario test when there is a node first name or last name. Because I can't generate a username for if they don't provide me any information. So like you're still thinking. Does this make sense?
Doesn't have any. No first, yeah.
So at least 5 different scenarios that you need to test it in order to successfully test that requirement.
Yeah, the most important ones are number 2 and number 3, because that's what the functionality is. The others are negative ones.
Right. Any questions? Do you understand how those things is broken down? Right? We went through multiple one of them. So if I give you additional requirements, will you be able to create a tree?
Well, they will always have additional requirements, so as part of the project work.
Do you understand the process now? Okay. So if I give you additional homework on Thursday, I should not see a blank faces or blank screens.
Yes.
So
Right.
they have remaining 2 left from the previous 5 that I already sent. And
Right.
They will get 2 more new ones.
There were 6, right? Or 5? How many we sent it on the first one?
6, I think.
Right.
So that they will have leftover plus this one.
We'll send you additional of this things. Okay. Any questions so far? You got to put more effort in it, guys. Staying quiet is not going to help you. It's not going to answer your questions. And then when you go into the real world, there won't be Herschel or Dilip asking you those things.
Definitely do the homework. That's for sure. That's the first thing. Yeah. All right.
So,
Take a 10-minute break.
yeah, let's take a 10-minute break. I need to set up things here and then we'll do that. So it's 11:17. How about we take 8-minute break, 11:25? Okay. And then Swati will take like it's 8-minute break. And then we'll get started with the next steps.
Okay.
All right, let's get. Swati, are you back?
Yes.
Okay. So. So if you recall it, right, we said you have a requirement, and for requirements, you talk about the various scenarios. And those scenarios can result into test cases, right? So we have a requirement under which we did the different scenarios, positive, negative scenarios. And one of the test case is going to be one specific leaf into whatever the tree that we draw. Right? So let's go back to the original requirements that we started with it when we started drawing the tree, right? So you're going to have it something called it as a user, I want to log into the system, right? And then once we do that, we say that there are 4 possible things I need to test it. Let's start with one possible thing. What is if I want to validate the user ID, valid user ID and a password? And I want to see it whether I'm successfully able to log in or not, right? So I have to write a test script, right? The steps, what steps I will do it in order to test that scenario. Okay. So when you start writing those steps, that is what's known as a test case. Okay. So let's look at it briefly. What is the structure of the test case is going to look like, right? So this is a template. As you write into the modern day tools, it has all of those templates built into it. So all you have to do is start filling it. But let's understand what information we need to do it. Okay. So whenever you write the test cases, right, you're gonna have many test cases, right? We talked about even for just creating a user, we said that there are 6 positive and 6 negative test cases, at least 12 test cases. So you need some way to mechanism in order to identify where does this test case belong? What exactly I'm trying to do it, right? So you will always have things like a project name and a module name. Then you will have some information, who created this test case, when they created it, what is the priority? Remember we talked about high, medium, low priorities? Then it'll have what exactly you're trying to test it. That is a test title. Then you will have a precondition. What precondition means is what should be true in the system before you run this test case.
What should be true?
Right, so remember what we just said is what should. Let's say if I'm doing a calculator, right, and I'm trying to do the testing of 2 plus 2, right? What it talks about it is when you do a 2 plus 2 and expect an answer of 4, every time you're starting with a completely scratch calculator, right? You're not keeping anything in the memory, you're not in the middle of some calculation and you're adding 2 to it, right? So whatever the condition or state of the system should be, is what is kind of put into the precondition. Then it talks about the dependencies. What other things should be this particular test case is going to be dependent on, right? So let's say we talked about the Amazon example. Right, if I'm trying to do a checkout, my dependency is going to be on whatever the payment gateway is, right? Because if the credit card company's gateway is down, I can't go and check it. Hey, is this credit card valid or not? That's a dependency, right? In case of our flow, right? If I want to send a notification to the dealer whenever a lender approves or rejects a credit application, I'm dependent on email system, right? If the email system is not there, it won't send out notification. So that's what it's called dependencies. What are the other dependency outside the system I'm dependent on it? Okay. Test summary talks about what should be the description, English description of what I'm trying to do it. And here, right, we talked about there are 4 different scenarios. Which scenario I'm testing in? I want to have the description. Then it will talk about what step by step, what are I going to do it? What is the expected results when I do certain actions? What test data I'm going to do it? And then once I run the test case, what should be the state of the system is going to be. Okay, so let's take one example and we'll work through it. Right. As I said, we're going to do it this valid user ID and a password scenario. So as a user, I want to be able to log into the system when I provide a valid user ID and a password. Okay. So let's say how would I go about writing a test case for that particular scenario? Okay, so obviously my project name is rflow. Right. What is this module name? It's going to be security, right? Because if you look into the requirements document, one of them is security, right? So this is security module. That means I'm trying to make sure only valid users are able to log into the system. Everybody with me so far? Okay. Let's say I'm going to say I'm the one who is writing the test case. Let's say today's date is when I'm writing it first time. Okay. The release version, let's say I'm going to do it the first version of the test case. Right now, I'm still writing it, right? So I'm not executing anything. I'm just designing it. So if you remember the STLC, it is essentially requirement analysis, acceptance criteria, design, and then execution, right? So I'm at the design phase. So I'm not going to have anything execution. This one I'm going to classify as a high priority, right? Because if I can't log into the system, I can't do anything. Right? Okay. I'm gonna call it test case as my first test case. Okay? And title, I'm gonna just say it is. I'm gonna say it's validate. User can validate, let's be specific, right? Validate. Super user login with correct credentials. Okay, what does that mean? Is that I'm gonna try to log in as a super user as long as I have a valid user ID and a password. In this case, that user should exist, right? If it doesn't exist, I can't log in, right? So my precondition should be is super user with login credentials as identified in the data section. We'll talk in a moment what is the data section is going to be. Okay. So this is like, if I want to log in into my bank account, if my account doesn't exist, can I log in? I can't, right? So before I can log in, my account has to exist. That's what this one is saying. This is a precondition. Before you super user can log in, that account has to exist. Okay. I don't have any dependence. Right? Because there's no external system. All of the user IDs and credential is going to be in there. Okay. So let's talk about the summary, right? So this is the title. Summary is explaining you what exactly that this test case is going to do it, right? So validates that a super user can successfully log in to the system when valid credentials are provided. Right. So in this case, what I'm saying is that a super user can successfully log in into the system if they have the right user ID and a password. Okay. So the next aspect is providing a test steps. Okay. So think about it. This is, I want you to think this way. Let's say if you're logging into Amazon to buy something. Have all of you purchased something from Amazon? Yes, no? Yes, Sola?
Yeah, everybody in America.
You have to say yes or no, otherwise I
Yes.
can't read your mind.
Yes, boss.
Okay? I'm not in a mind reading business here.
Right.
Okay. So, Swati, have you logged in into Amazon to purchase anything ever?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. So what is the first step you do it? Let's say if I want to buy something from Amazon, what is the first step I do?
Log into the website,
Log into the website.
Log
Which website?
Amazon.com.
Amazon.
I have to first know and enter what is the website I want to go with into my browser, right? The right address. And click on to go to that website, right? Right, so if I do it, and I'm gonna try to do it here, right? Right, so if I do Chrome Pro. Okay. Okay, so what do I have to do first thing? I have to put that whatever the address is, right? So in this case, Amazon.com, right? I have to go into that. Right? Okay, then I have to do it. Sign in, right? So this is where login comes, right?
Yes.
So in case of our flown, if I want to log in, right, I have to do something similar, right? So what is the step? Right? So I'll just say in the browser, enter the URL. And for a moment, let's just say it's that URL is going to be present in the data section. Somebody's going to tell you what URL, okay? It's fine. Right? So that means now I need the site address where I need to go. So in my data section, I'm going to just say is application URL. Okay. You'll get some, like just you were saying, Amazon.com. I needed some rflown.com URL, right? Okay. Then, so what is going to happen when I do that? Right. So for every step, when you do some action, system is going to do something for you, right? So if I did it Amazon.com and hit enter, what did it do?
It opens the page.
It opens that page, right?
Open the application.
So my expected results for this one, right? If I enter an application URL, right? What should do it in the browser, right? So rflown login homepage is displayed in the browser, right? Because if it doesn't display, can I move forward? I cannot. Right? Okay. What is the next step I'm going to do it? Once I'm at that, it's going to show me the login page, right? And login page, credential, what do we say? It's username and a password, right? So what is my next step is going to be?
Enter invalid username.
Invalid?
Valid.
Valid, right? So enter
Valid.
user
Valid.
name and password as specified in the data section, right? So you will provide some user ID and a password, right? And for a moment, let's just capture that I will provide username and I will provide a password. What I will provide, we'll see in a moment, okay? If I enter just a username and a password, is that sufficient? Okay, so I'm going to take you back here, right? If I put my phone number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as like this, is that good enough?
Yeah, you click continue.
I have to click continue,
Click on
right?
enter.
Just by entering it, it's not going to do anything for me, right? So here also, if I just enter a username and a password, it's not going to do anything, right? I have to take some action for it to do something for me,
Right.
right? Right? So I'm going to click on the login. Then at that point, what should happen?
To display.
What should happen here?
Application should get open.
So does the application gets open? What does first thing happen? It's going to first check it. Did I provide the right username or a password, right?
Yeah.
And if I provide it, what is first thing it's going to log me in, right? before even doing anything else. It's gonna log in, right? So. Then it's going to display the home page, right? On any page, right? Whatever my super user homepage is going to be, right? Because my dealer is going to be different, my super user is going to be different, my lender is going to be different, right? Right? So I'm telling it what it should do, right? Let me just do this so it's easier. So I'm going to tell the steps. I'm going to tell what is the expected result. Based on that, I'm going to do the next step. It's going to do that. Now, what should be the next step? Okay. What should be my next step? What should I do? Think around what it was I'm trying to do.
Trying to purchase.
I'm going to try to check it if I have a valid user ID and password. Can I log in into the system or not? Right? Did I accomplish that? Yes, no?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Do I need to do anything more at this point? I don't, right? Because I'm already done that. Right. So now the thing is that I still need to provide this information, right? Without that, I can't test anything. Right. So where would I find application URL and a password? Okay, so if you flip into your notebook, right after the first section, you have a user ID and you have a whole bunch of passwords and usernames. Okay. So right, so my user application URL, it's going to be rloantraining.cloudapp.net. My username, remember I'm trying to do what kind of user? Super user, right? My super user's user ID is straining. Okay, and all password is training. Yes. Okay. So now that I can go, can I get every steps, right? So in the browser, enter the application URL, which is here. I'll enter that, click that. It should take me to the Airflow homepage or login page. Once I'm at the login page, I'm going to enter S training as the username. And I'm going to enter training as the password. And I'm going to click on the login. Once I do that, since it is a valid user ID and a password, because remember, what was my precondition? Super user with login credential exists in the system. Right? I knew that it's going to be this user, so I can successfully log in. At this point, I've validated this test case that, hey, the system works if I provide the right user ID and a password. Okay. Now, what will be the post condition? So what should be true at this point? Right. So what did I do? I logged into system, right? So at this point, right? So this is true now. Because before I ran the use case, I was not logged in. Now I'm logged in. Okay. Now I can say that this is now planned, it's not executed. Because I haven't tested anything. All I've just wrote is the steps. Right? Everybody good?
Yes,
Do you understand what I did?
yes.
Okay. So I put all of the information, relevant information. Okay, then I identify the title. Identify the precondition. I put the dependencies. Right. Then I wrote step-by-step instructions. Provided all the relevant data. Made sure I identify what should I expect at every step. Right, and what should be true in the system once I'm successfully done testing it. Okay. Any questions? Did you connect it from a requirements to the scenarios to a test case and a script? Okay. Swati, any questions? Do you understand how I went about it?
Yes, yes. So this one we have created for single user, super user. So likewise, we can create for other users
Right.
in same way, right?
Right, you can do that. And you can also do the same thing. Now we just tested only one scenario, right? So we tested only this particular case,
Okay.
right?
Mhm. Yes, yes.
You have to still write scenarios for
Three
this
more.
thing.
Mhm.
Three more, right? Three more different test cases. Now your steps will be different, right? Because
Yes,
everything,
yes. Mhm. Test data will be different.
test data will be different, preconditions will be different. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So here's what I want you to do it. I'm gonna give you 30 minutes to do it. Okay. I want you to take the loan calculator requirement, right? So let me go to this, right? Let me navigate into the board where we did the loan calculator this morning. Right? Okay. So I want you to write the test case for a valid input for loan calculator. Okay. So write it on a piece of paper. So if you flip, for those who are in the classroom, if you flip it, you have a blank form. Okay, right after the, now, that's right. Okay. Swati, you should have a electronic copy in the PDF file that was sent to you. Right? So I want you to do this valid input scenario. Okay. Using the same template that I gave you, right? I'm gonna leave the test steps here for you to look through it so that you can write appropriate. Everybody clear what is the task? Yes, no? Come on, unless you see it, I'm not a mind reader.
Yes, yes, yes.
Are you guys good?
Yes.
Swati, you good? Swati?
Yes, yes. PDF format I haven't received. It's empty PDF format, right?
Yeah, but in the all
I
files,
received.
you should have one. So you can just write it that, right? The more important thing I want you to do it is write the test title, precondition, summary, and steps in the data section,
Okay.
okay? And then all of the information where you want it is, Swati, have you seen the all project files? If you go into
Well,
that,
yes, yes, this one is test data. Test
Right.
data.
on page number 3 on that, it has all the information. Okay,
Okay.
all right, so it's 11:52. I'm gonna give you time till 12:22. 30 minutes to write it. Okay,
You want us to write it there?
yeah, just write it in there. Okay. So that way you have everything else is done, you don't have to write anything else. And Swati, I've left it on the screen share, the test case that I wrote it, so you'll be able to see it completely.
Can you please little bit zoom out?
Yeah. Give me a second. Let me pause the recording.
Successfully open the principal amount in the,
But I entered it, right?
yeah,
So if I entered the amount, what should be expecting?
The amount, the total amount.
I already took $1,000 as a total amount. What should I expect?
the results.
What is the result? What should be the result?
The 3% of,
Okay, so what should be the result? What should I expect?
Output.
But what is the output? This is what you will be doing at the work. You have to figure out what it will be. What should be the expected results?
the expected result should be like 30.
Yeah, right? So monthly payment, because what it is, 30, it's a 3% of this amount is what it should be, right? So how would it say it's expected results? It's gonna be. Right? Right? That's what it should be.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
What will be the next step? Obviously, I wrote it down only one step, but you have to break it down into 2 steps, like what I showed in the super user, right? Everybody understand that? We're just trying to summarize it. What were you trying to do it? You were trying to calculate to see if the system gives the right calculation or not, right? At this point, do you have to do anything else? Because system did give you the answer, right? And you're validating that it is 3%. If anything other than 30 gets displayed, then what do you do? Saying system doesn't work as expected, right? So what will be the application URL? Obviously, we say that application URL will be Same thing as this, right? You can go ahead and save this as an application URL. What should be my user ID? What user ID should I use it? Anyone?
Said anyone, right?
No. Any one of you answer the question based on the data I provided. What dealer ID I should use it?
G-Train.
Right? Password is training. Okay. Did you understand how we took, what will be the post condition? Did you change anything in the system?
No.
Nothing, right? So then there should not be any post condition. You can populate all the other information, right? So you understand how to write the test cases? Any questions? Swati, do you understand how this thing works?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So expected result basically we are getting from requirement document.
Right.
Yes.
Right,
Hmm.
you should say what you should expect it when you do this thing. Okay? All right, so let me just save it. Once again. So. Any questions? So if I give you a requirement and you have driven a tree, will you be able to write the test case? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
You have to tell it, otherwise I can't figure it out.
I will send you this test case in the email.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry.
Okay,
Um,
so I think it's also we are ready to pause for the day.
okay,
So let's talk about the homework.
Yeah.
So. Herschel had sent it out the last time, the 6 requirements, and you had done only 3 of them. Right? He's gonna send out additional requirements, the 5 that you did today, and he's gonna send 2 more. So for all of those requirements, you should have a tree,
so.
scenario tree,
Yeah,
right? So you will have 5 additional scenario trees in addition to what we already talked in the class. Okay, then what I would like you to do is write the detailed test cases, just like what I did it here. 3 additional detailed test cases. Okay. And now let's talk about which one you're gonna write it.
yeah.
Let
Which
me
one?
pull it. Okay. So. One thing I would like it is the use case for this one, auto generation of username. Okay, valid username,
Just one test case.
one test case.
So we came up with at least, what, 4 or 5? I think you just pick one and write the details step by step.
Right.
Instructions.
Okay. The second thing I want you to do is this one, dealer shall not be able to update credit application status. So write it down, right? So 2.1, 2.7,
I'll send it out in the email. below.
okay?
Yeah.
So 2.1, 2.7. And
One from the previous.
right, do you have that handy, Harsh? Where did we have the previous one? Is it in this one?
Yeah,
But this one is today, this one is today,
Today, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
so. Let me see which one was in 2.6. Let's do this, one of the search one,
Then a dealer search.
dealer search, right? So. What is it, this one, right? This one, okay? Dealer should be able to search existing dealer by dealer name or address. Okay, let's search it by dealer name. Okay,
Search dealer by dealer name.
search dealer by dealer name
Scenario. So
Okay.
write down the scenarios that you need to write.
So 3 scenarios. One is, write it down. First one is search dealer by dealer name. Let me put into notepad. Okay. So one is search dealer by dealer name. Okay. The second one we talked about is username auto generation, right? Okay. The third one is we said dealer should not be able to update the credit status. Right? So. Okay. So you have to write. Then. That's your homework. Okay, any questions on the homework? Do you understand what you need to do? Okay. Let me give an advice to all of you. If you don't write any one of those things coming on Thursday, it's not going to be useful or productive for anybody. It does not help you to make any progress in your learning. So even if you don't have a complete clarity, write whatever your understanding is, even if it is incomplete. Do not show up on Thursday without having any of these things.
Yeah, it will help you.
Draw it,
Because
help it out. And what I would like it is before the class, sometime Thursday afternoon, send Herschel all of these things in an email. So that he can pull it up, whatever you send him in the email.
Yeah, otherwise you will have to share it basically on your machine, so.
Yeah.
If you send me, that's easier. Yeah, we can go faster in the
Okay.
Thursday.
Any question in terms of what we talked about?
No, we're good.
This will be a video that you can send. Herschel, you may have sent in the previous class. I
Yeah,
forgot to-
Thursday and this one I'll send it out to me.
Okay. All right, and he will send you out all of these things, the 2 use cases that we wrote it. Remember, as I mentioned, when you do a login as a dealer user, this is a high level step we talked, but there are 2 steps, right? In the super user login, we says first go to the application homepage, enter specific credential, and then there is a specific expected state for each one of them. Be as explicit as possible. Okay. One simple way to test is think about it. If I give it this to somebody else, can they execute this test case without asking me any questions? If they can, then there is enough detail into it. If they have to ask you a question, that means you still need to write some additional information into it. Okay, That's a yardstick. You can use it to see it whether your test case is good or not. Okay. All right, Swati, any question?
Actually, I don't have the test data in test case template document.
So it is in the PDF. Herschel will send a blank template also to all.
No, Swati, you should have it in the PDF, all PDF. Yeah.
Okay, I will check.
Perfect.
Yeah, all project files has that PDF template. But just go ahead and send it.
Yeah, I'll send it anyway, yep.
You will send a blank Word template anyway. Okay.
Mm.
Everybody clear on what is expected between now and Thursday?
Yep.
I strongly recommend read a requirement one more time because you have to understand the context when you're putting the test scripts and the details.
And one thing I would advise is create a Word document, the template I'm going to send you, write the test cases in there. So that you can easily share, basically, those test cases on Thursday. In a Word document, basically, okay?
Okay.
All right, then we can wrap
Then
up.
we wrap up for today.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So I think we are closing out.